There's been quite a bit of buzz about beta sororities over the last year. I'd like to think I had something to do with that, but it really doesn't matter. People love the idea that you could have multiple betas in a tank because you've always heard that you could only have one. Well, that applies to males. You can have multiple females, but there's a little bit of stuff you need to know before you even try. Over the last year, I've done several videos about beta sororities, and I plan on doing several more. But today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I've talked about how beta sororities have completely changed this hobby for me, and they're the most amazing thing ever. But today I want to talk to you about the dark side of beta sororities and reasons you should not start one. Just some things to think about before starting a beta sorority, because these can be amazing and wonderful tanks, but then they can also be a total nightmare. So sit back and relax, and let's talk about the top reasons why I think you should not start a beta sorority. Said that beta sororities are a lot like African cichlid tanks. You set things up, you throw the fish in there, everything's going wonderfully, and then boom, your tank just crashes. The thing is, when you set up a beta sorority, you're going to want to put all of the fish in the tank at the same time. This way, the fish can establish their territories and establish a hierarchy. A lot of people, including myself, advise that you use dither fish in a sorority as well. These are fish that are good tank mates with betas and provide a distraction so they're not always wanting to fight each other. So you have a 20-gallon and you throw in 5 or 6 betas, and then you decide, let me go ahead and throw in, I don't know, 9 zebra danios. That's a lot of fish to add to a tank all at once. Putting all of those fish in the tank at one time will drastically impact the bioload in the tank, and there's a good chance the bacteria won't be able to keep up. And if that happens, your ammonia is going to spike, and if you don't know how to handle a situation like that, it could end up killing all of the fish in the tank. My suggestion would be to throw the dithers in first. That way you have some activity in your tank, and it also gives the bacteria time to catch up. Give it a few weeks, and then introduce your betas. This one should be a given, but it has to be said. Just because your betas are all getting along today, it doesn't mean they're gonna all be getting along tomorrow. This is true with a lot of fish in the hobby. You put a bunch of fish together, they get along perfectly, but after a while, fish start getting picked off one by one, and you're pulling your hair out wondering what's going on. Well, unless you're John, 'cause he's bald. The thing is, you have no idea how your fish are gonna behave once you add them to the tank. Unfortunately, we have no way of interviewing our fish or doing some kind of a background check to see how they're going to act. There's really no real strategy for this. It's like a roll of the dice, and it's pretty much the same thing for any fish in the hobby. I wish I had something better to tell you about that. I'm sorry. This is something that has happened to me many times. We've even had fish come to us from the farms that I think are females, but then, oops, they're males. There's a few different ways to determine whether a beta is a male or a female, and after you've spent some time around these fish, it can be pretty easy to tell. But there's always going to be those males that trick you. If one of your betas turns out to be a male, it's not always the end of the world. Sometimes they'll get along in the tank just fine, but this is why it's always a good idea to have some spare tanks around that if one surprises you, you can move them out. Here's the thing, I've gotten messages from people and they've said, I've been keeping a male beta for about a year and I've been really enjoying it. I think it's time to step up my game and start a beta sorority. Stop. Slow your roll. Let's talk about this for a moment. I don't know how to say this other than beta sororities are a completely different thing than keeping one beta. Not only is it more fish, which is a challenge on its own, but it's also fish that require the tank to be set up a certain way to keep everyone happy. Listen, it's really cruel and I don't recommend it, but you can keep a male beta in a tank with literally nothing and he'll be just fine. Maybe not happy, but he'll be just fine. It's mean because you want to give him something to play with, a way to exercise, and places to feel safe, but the thing is, he can survive with none of those things in the tank. Beta sororities are the exact opposite. You want to have plenty of things in a tank for a beta sorority. Lots of plants, lots of caves, lots of hiding places, different little areas so they each have their own space. Because let's be honest, females, they can get a little moody sometimes, so if you don't want them to fight, give them a lot of different places to have on their own. You want to have a well thought out plan before you start a beta sorority. You know, it's just not the same when you're keeping one beta in a bowl. Hopefully not a bowl. This one is a no-brainer. Have a backup plan. That's it. Have a backup plan. Like we've already talked about, when you set up a beta sorority, you need to know what you're going to do if things go wrong. You don't need to have a bunch of 20-gallon tanks sitting around. You can just have something as simple as containers like these to put the fish in until you can figure it out. It's not a permanent solution, it's temporary, so it's a great backup plan to have. There you go. It's also a good idea to have some medications like salt, Maricin, and Paraclins around just so you're ready if one of your fish gets beat up or sick, and you can treat them right away rather than having to run to the pet store or order them from us and wait for them to arrive. Remember when I talked about having spare tanks around? Well, this is a good reason to have these spare tanks around because they can also serve as hospital tanks, and well, that's just a really good reason to have a backup plan. We all know that fish keeping requires patience. It's something that everyone has to grasp when they first start out in this hobby. Well, patience is absolutely critical when it comes to keeping beta sororities. You want to make sure you've got the right setup, the right water parameters, the right decorations, filtration, tank mates, and so on. These aren't things that you could just slap together on a Saturday afternoon. This requires patience so that you can have the absolute best setup for your beta sorority. This tank right here took me months to set up. I had to have so much patience and I had to let it cycle and scape it, and you know what? I couldn't be any more happier with this tank, and my girls, they are just so super happy. I've got 22 female betas in here, and I can't even tell you how many snails because, well, there's a ton, but my point is, this is just one of my favorite tanks and a joy to watch. Think about pets in general. If you adopt a cat, you have to take care of this cat. You have to take it to the vet, you have to feed it, you have to change its litter box, you need to give it love, and all kinds of attention. So why would a fish be any different? Well, beta sororities, and really all fish for that matter, are the same way. You need to always be monitoring things, testing your water, watching for aggression, reacting if something goes wrong, and of course the equivalent of cleaning a litter box is you've got to do your maintenance. If you're someone that works out of the house and you're away from your home for 100 hours a week, then maybe a fish tank isn't for you, especially not a beta sorority. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I was able to open your eyes up a little bit as far as the challenges of keeping a beta sorority. Like I said in the beginning, these tanks have been a game changer for me, but I wanted you to know that they're not as simple as you might think. I hope I was able to get that across. If I haven't scared you away from beta sororities, or you just want a gorgeous male, then check out keepfishkeeping.com and get one of our betas and we'll send it right to your door. Did you find Bubbles in the video? Well, he was there. He is hiding somewhere. And if you are the first person to comment saying where he was at, the correct time, we will pin your comment to the top of the comment section. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you next time.